People like Ygritte from Game of Thrones often embody a powerful psychological structure built around independence, resilience, and emotional authenticity. Individuals with personalities similar to Ygritte typically develop a strong sense of identity rooted in survival, personal values, and lived experience, rather than external validation. They are shaped by environments where strength and adaptability are necessary traits, and this molds them into people who trust their instincts more than social expectations. In many ways, their psychology reflects a deep alignment with their internal compass rather than societal norms. These personalities usually grow up in circumstances where self-reliance is essential, leading them to develop confidence in their own abilities early in life. Psychologically, this fosters a mindset where autonomy is not merely preferred but required for emotional safety. Such individuals often reject rigid hierarchies and authority structures because they believe legitimacy comes from actions and integrity rather than titles or power. This explains why characters like Ygritte challenge rules and question established systems without hesitation. Emotionally, people like Ygritte display a paradoxical combination of toughness and sincerity. While they appear fearless and direct, their emotional depth is often profound. They are capable of intense loyalty and love, but they express these feelings in unconventional ways. Their vulnerability tends to surface only when they trust someone completely, which makes their emotional connections rare but extremely meaningful. Another psychological trait common among these individuals is their strong moral independence. Instead of following dominant moral frameworks imposed by institutions or leaders, they rely on experiential ethics, values shaped by what they have seen and endured. This often results in a worldview where fairness, survival, and loyalty outweigh abstract laws or traditions. Their sense of right and wrong may clash with mainstream norms, yet it remains deeply consistent within their own internal logic. Communication for personalities like Ygritte is usually direct and unfiltered. They value honesty over diplomacy, sometimes appearing blunt or confrontational to others. Psychologically, this stems from a belief that truth strengthens relationships while deception weakens them. Their straightforwardness is not meant to offend but to maintain clarity and authenticity in social interactions. People with this psychological pattern often possess an acute awareness of power dynamics, having experienced environments where survival depended on reading intentions accurately. They become highly perceptive observers of human behavior. They can quickly detect manipulation, insincerity, or hidden motives, which makes them difficult to deceive. Another defining characteristic is their resistance to conformity. Individuals like Ygritte do not easily accept social expectations that contradict their sense of freedom or fairness. They often prefer living on the margins of structured societies, where personal choice and self-expression remain intact. Psychologically, this resistance reflects a deep need for autonomy and authenticity. Despite their fierce independence, these personalities are not inherently antisocial. On the contrary, they thrive in tight-knit communities where trust and mutual respect are earned through shared struggle. Loyalty becomes a central pillar of their psychological framework, and once someone proves trustworthy, they are protected with unwavering commitment. Their humor and playfulness also reveal an important psychological dimension. Characters like Ygritte often use teasing, sarcasm, or witty remarks as both social bonding tools and emotional defenses. Humor allows them to express affection while maintaining their image of strength and independence. Ultimately, the psychological core of people like Ygritte revolves around authenticity, survival wisdom, and emotional courage. They are individuals who refuse to compromise their identity for acceptance, and their strength lies not just in physical resilience, but in the clarity of their values and the intensity with which they live them. One of the most fascinating psychological aspects of characters like Ygritte is how they approach love and attachment. In Game of Thrones, Ygritte's relationship with Jon Snow reveals a pattern common among people with fiercely independent personalities. They crave deep emotional bonds but simultaneously fear losing their freedom or being betrayed. For individuals with this mindset, love is not simply an emotional experience, but a test of trust and loyalty. They evaluate potential partners carefully, observing actions more than words, because they are accustomed to relying on themselves. Letting another person into their emotional world represents a significant psychological risk. This tension often creates a push and pull dynamic in their relationships. On one hand, they desire closeness, intimacy, and shared experiences. On the other, they instinctively guard their independence and remain alert to signs that their autonomy might be threatened. This internal conflict can make their romantic interactions intense and unpredictable. People like Ygritte also express affection in unconventional ways. Instead of traditional romantic gestures, they may show love through protection, shared challenges, or playful confrontation. Teasing, daring, and emotional honesty become their language of intimacy. For them, emotional connection grows through authenticity rather than formal expressions of romance. Trust plays an enormous psychological role in their relationships. Once they decide someone is trustworthy, their loyalty becomes extraordinary. They will defend and support that person even under extreme circumstances. However, betrayal or dishonesty can destroy that trust quickly and permanently. Another psychological layer is their sensitivity to hypocrisy or moral inconsistency. Because they operate according to personal principles, they expect the same authenticity from others. When someone violates those expectations, it can feel like a profound emotional betrayal rather than this simple disagreement. Their fear of vulnerability often leads them to mask deeper emotions with humor, sarcasm, or bold confidence. This defense mechanism protects them from appearing weak, while still allowing them to express parts of their feelings indirectly. Over time, however, genuine relationships gradually soften these defenses. Individuals like Ygritte are also drawn to partners who challenge them intellectually and emotionally. They admire strength, courage, and integrity rather than status or authority. Psychological attraction for them is often rooted in mutual respect and shared resilience rather than superficial compatibility. Despite their guarded nature, once they allow themselves to love someone, the emotional intensity can be transformative. Their relationships tend to be passionate, deeply loyal, and filled with moments of both conflict and profound connection. The emotional stakes are high because they invest their whole identity into the bond. In the end, the psychology of people like Ygritte reveals a complex balance between independence and intimacy. They are individuals who fiercely protect their freedom, yet long for authentic connection. Their greatest emotional challenge is learning that vulnerability does not weaken their strength, it deepens it. People with personalities similar to Ygritte in Game of Thrones often possess a unique psychological relationship with conflict. Rather than avoiding confrontation, they see it as a natural and sometimes necessary part of life. Their mindset is shaped by environments where survival, honor, and truth frequently require direct action. As a result, they develop an instinctive readiness to face difficult situations head-on instead of suppressing tension or pretending harmony exists where it does not. One important psychological feature of these individuals is their courage in defending their beliefs. People like Ygritte are not easily intimidated by authority, social pressure, or dominant groups. Their confidence comes from internal conviction rather than social approval. When they challenge systems or leaders, it is rarely for attention or rebellion alone. It stems from a genuine belief that honesty and justice are more important than obedience. This psychological defiance often emerges from a strong sense of personal dignity. Individuals who share Ygritte's mindset believe that respect must be mutual rather than demanded through hierarchy. Because of this, they react strongly to arrogance, exploitation, or injustice. Their reactions may seem impulsive to outsiders, but internally they are guided by a deeply rooted moral instinct. Another significant aspect of their psychology is their resilience during adversity. When faced with danger, loss, or uncertainty, they rarely collapse emotionally. Instead, they adapt quickly and continue moving forward. This resilience does not mean they are immune to pain. Rather, they have developed the ability to process hardship without allowing it to destroy their sense of identity or purpose. People like Ygritte also possess a warrior-like psychological mindset that values courage over safety. They tend to respect individuals who act with bravery and authenticity, even if those individuals belong to opposing sides. This explains why such personalities can form unexpected alliances or emotional connections with people who initially appear to be enemies. Another defining characteristic is their refusal to live according to fear. Fear exists, but it does not control their decisions. Psychologically, They believe that life loses meaning when it is governed by caution and submission. Instead, they prioritize living fully and honestly, even when doing so carries serious risks. Their relationship with conflict also reveals their capacity for growth. When they encounter people who challenge their assumptions or introduce new perspectives, they do not necessarily reject those ideas outright. Instead, they may question, argue, and test them through experience. This process can lead to significant personal transformation. Despite their confrontational tendencies, these personalities are not driven purely by aggression. Much of their defiance comes from a desire for authenticity and fairness. They resist manipulation, political games, and hidden agendas because such behaviors contradict their straightforward view of human interaction. Another psychological trait is their deep respect for strength of character. Individuals like Ygritte admire people who stand by their principles even when it is difficult. They may clash fiercely with others, but they often develop respect for those who demonstrate courage and honesty during those confrontations. Ultimately, the psychology of people like Ygritte reveals that conflict for them is not simply about fighting or dominance. It is about defending identity, truth, and dignity. Their courage and defiance arise from a refusal to live passively, making them powerful personalities who shape the emotional and moral landscapes around them.